First contact jitters. Zara Chen stood frozen at the entrance of the Galactic Intercultural Academy, her heart pounding so hard she was sure the aliens around her could hear it. The cavernous atrium bustled with life forms of every conceivable shape and size, a dizzying array of colors, textures, and anatomies that made her head spin. Some floated, some slithered, others walked on varying numbers of appendages. The air was thick with a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and rumbles as translator devices worked overtime to facilitate communication. This was it. After years of preparation and a grueling selection process, Zara was one of the first humans to be accepted into the prestigious academy. It was humanity's chance to prove they weren't just the Deathworlders the galactic community feared, but valuable members of the interstellar society. "Come on, Zara," she muttered to herself, squaring her shoulders. "You've faced scarier things than this. Remember that time you had to give a presentation in front of the entire UN?" But even as she tried to psych herself up, she knew this was different. Back then, at least everyone had been human. Taking a deep breath, Zara stepped forward, her small suitcase trailing behind her. Almost immediately, she felt the atmosphere in the atrium shift. Conversations halted mid-sentence, and she could feel hundreds of alien eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, turn to stare at her. The silence was deafening. Zara forced a smile, trying to appear as non-threatening as possible. "Hello," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Her universal translator picked up the word and broadcast it in a variety of languages and communication methods. A ripple of movement spread through the crowd as aliens recoiled or inched away from her. "Oh, come now." A booming voice suddenly cut through the tension. "Is this how we greet a new student?" Zara turned to see a massive, gelatinous being oozing towards her. It was a shimmering, translucent blue, with what appeared to be multiple nuclei floating within its body. As it approached, it formed pseudopods that vaguely resembled arms and a head. "Welcome to the Galactic Intercultural Academy, young human," the being said, its voice resonating from its entire body. "I am Dean Zylox. We've been expecting you." Zara bowed slightly, remembering her cultural sensitivity training. "Thank you, Dean Zylox. I'm honored to be here." The dean turned to address the still silent crowd. "Students, faculty, this is a historic moment. Let us welcome the first human to grace our halls. I expect each and every one of you to treat her with the same respect and curiosity you would extend to any new species joining our community." There was a murmur of assent, though Zara could still feel the undercurrent of unease. She didn't blame them. Humans had quite the reputation in the galaxy. "Now then," Dean Zylox continued, "let's get you settled in. Your orientation begins in one standard rotation." Glix, a small insectoid creature, scuttled forward, its iridescent exoskeleton reflecting the atrium's lights. "Yes, Dean," it chittered. "Please show our new student to her quarters." "Zara, this is Glix, one of our senior students. He'll be your guide for the first few rotations." Glix's antennae twitched nervously, but to his credit, he didn't shrink away from Zara. "Follow me, please," he said, his mandibles clicking as he spoke. As Zara followed Glix through the winding corridors of the academy, she couldn't help but marvel at the architecture. The building seemed to be a blend of organic and technological elements, with walls that pulsed with bioluminescence and gravity fields that allowed for vertical as well as horizontal travel. "So, Glix," Zara said, trying to break the awkward silence, "what's your field of study?" Glix's compound eyes swiveled to regard her. "Xenobiology with a focus on extreme environment adaptations," he replied, "which is why I volunteered to be your guide. I find your species fascinating." Zara wasn't sure if that was a compliment or not. "Oh, what have you heard about humans?" Glix's antennae twitched again, a gesture Zara was beginning to interpret as discomfort. "Well, to be frank, most of what we've heard is quite alarming. Is it true that you evolved on a planet with constant tectonic shifts and extreme temperature variations?" Zara chuckled. Earth does have its challenges, but it's not as bad as all that. We do have earthquakes and different climate zones, and atmospheric oxygen levels high enough to support spontaneous combustion. Glix interrupted, his voice rising in pitch. Well, yes, and multicellular apex predators that can outrun most sentient species. Zara sighed. This was going to be a long orientation. Look, Glix, I know humans might seem scary to you, but we're really not that different from other sentient species. We're here to learn, to grow, to be part of the galactic community. They arrived at a door that I raised open at their approach. These are your quarters, Glix said, his tone still laced with a mix of fear and fascination. The environmental controls have been set to Earth standard. Please don't adjust them without consulting the staff first. We don't want to accidentally create a death zone in the living areas. Zara bit back a retort and simply nodded. Thank you, Glix. I appreciate your help. As the insectoid scuttled away, Zara entered her new home for the foreseeable future. The room was a perfect sphere, with a gravity field that could be adjusted to allow for use of all surfaces. A soft, moss-like substance covered the floor, or what was currently the floor, and a few amorphous shapes that she assumed were furniture dotted the space. Zara set down her suitcase and collapsed onto the moss, staring up at the gently pulsing ceiling. She had known this wouldn't be easy, but the reality of her situation was starting to sink in. She was alone, the sole representative of her species, surrounded by beings who viewed her as a potential threat. But as the initial wave of homesickness and doubt washed over her, Zara felt a familiar determination rising in its wake. This was bigger than her. She was here to pave the way for humanity, to show the galaxy that humans were more than just the sum of their harsh evolutionary history. All right, universe, she said to the empty room, a grin spreading across her face. You want to see what a Deathworlder can do? Challenge accepted. With that, Zara began to unpack, her mind already racing with ideas on how to win over her alien classmates. Little did she know that her greatest challenge, and humanity's greatest opportunity, was just around the corner, waiting in the form of a simple, involuntary bodily function that would shake the foundations of the Galactic Intercultural Academy. The sneeze heard across the galaxy. The first week at the Galactic Intercultural Academy had been a whirlwind for Zara. Each day brought new wonders and challenges as she navigated the complex web of interspecies interactions. She had learned to modulate her voice for species with sensitive auditory organs, mastered the art of non-contact greetings for touch-averse aliens, and even started to decipher the subtle pheromone-based communication of her insectoid classmates. But despite her best efforts, Zara could feel the undercurrent of unease that followed her through the Academy's halls. Conversations would halt when she entered a room, only to resume in hushed tones once she passed. More than once, she'd caught glimpses of her classmates performing what she assumed were protective gestures when she got too close. It was frustrating, but Zara refused to let it dampen her spirits. Today was the day of her first xenobiology lecture, and she was determined to make a good impression. As she entered the lecture hall, Zara marveled at the design. Instead of traditional rows of seats, the room was a spherical chamber with learning pods arranged in a three-dimensional grid. Students of various species were settling into pods that accommodated their unique physiologies. Ah, the human has arrived, a melodious voice announced. Zara looked up to see the lecturer, a being that resembled a cross between a jellyfish and a willow tree, floating at the center of the chamber. I am Professor Xylith. Please, take any available pod. Zara nodded and made her way to an empty pod near the center of the room. As she settled in, she noticed the students in neighboring pods subtly adjusting their positions to put a little more distance between them. Today, Professor Xylith began, her tendrils swaying gently. We will be discussing the fascinating subject of evolutionary adaptations to extreme environments, and how fortuitous that we have with us a prime example. Zara felt every eye, or sensory organ, in the room turned towards her. She shifted uncomfortably in her pod. The human species, Xylith continued, evolved on a planet so hostile that most galactic citizens would consider it uninhabitable. Constant gravity, extreme temperature fluctuations, aggressive fauna, and a corrosive atmosphere. Truly, a death world in every sense. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Zara raised her hand, determined to dispel some of the misconceptions. "Professor, if I may." But before she could continue, she felt a familiar tickle in her nose. Zara's eyes widened in panic. No, not now, she thought desperately. But it was too late. Ah, HFY. The sneeze echoed through the chamber like a thunderclap. For a moment, there was absolute silence. Then, chaos erupted. By the void, it's attacking, screeched an avian being, its feathers puffing out in distress. "Airborne toxins, seal your membranes," gurgled a gelatinous student, quickly forming a protective outer layer. "Emergency protocols initiated," announced the Academy's eye, as containment fields suddenly shimmered into existence around each pod. Zara sat in stunned silence, watching as the lecture hall descended into pandemonium. Students were frantically trying to evacuate their pods, only to find themselves trapped by the containment fields. Professor Xylith's tendrils were writhing in agitation as she tried in vain to calm the class. "Please, everyone, remain calm." Xylith's voice cut through the din. "I'm sure there's a perfectly reasonable explanation. Human, what was that?" "Expulsion." Zara felt her face burning with embarrassment. It was just a sneeze," she stammered. "It's a natural reflex. Completely harmless, I promise." "Harmless," squeaked a small furry being huddled in the corner of its pod. "But we were told every aspect of human biology is lethal." "That's not true," Zora protested. "Look, I can explain." But her words were drowned out by a new wave of panic as the lecture hall doors burst open. A squad of security drones floated in, their sensors scanning the room. "Potential biohazard detected," one of the drones announced. "All organisms to remain in containment for decontamination procedures." "Decontamination," Zora exclaimed. "But that's not necessary. It was just a sneeze." Her pleas fell on deaf ears, or whatever passed for ears among her classmates. The drones began to fill the chamber with a fine, shimmering mist. Zara watched in dismay as her fellow students underwent various protective transformations, some secreting hard shells, others entering states of suspended animation. As the mist swirled around her, Zara realized with a sinking feeling that this incident was going to have repercussions far beyond a disrupted lecture. She had come to the Academy to improve humanity's standing in the galactic community, but in the span of a single sneeze, she might have set back human-alien relations by decades. The decontamination process complete, the drones retreated, leaving behind a lecture hall filled with terrified students and one very distraught human. "Well," Professor Xylith said, her voice tinged with a mix of fascination and apprehension, "I believe this concludes today's lesson on evolutionary adaptations. And might I say, it was far more interactive than anticipated." As the containment field slowly dissipated, Zara could only sit in her pod, her mind racing. How could she possibly fix this? How could she convince an entire academy? No, an entire galactic society, that humans weren't the walking biohazards they feared. Little did Zara know, her sneeze had set in motion a chain of events that would not only challenge her role at the Academy, but would also force the galactic community to confront its deepest fears and prejudices about Deathworlders. The real test of humanity's place among the stars was just beginning. Diplomatic disaster. News of the human bioweapon incident spread through the Galactic Intercultural Academy faster than a quantum entanglement transmission. By the time Zara had been released from the impromptu quarantine, the entire student body was abuzz with wild speculations and fearful whispers. Zara trudged back to her quarters, her shoulders slumped under the weight of accusing stares and hastily averted gazes. She had tried to explain, to reassure her classmates that sneezing was a harmless bodily function, but fear and misinformation had already taken root. As she approached her room, she found Dean Xylox waiting for her, the administrator's gelatinous form rippling with what Zora had come to recognize as agitation. "Ms. Chen," Xylox's voice reverberated solemnly, "we need to talk." Inside her quarters, Zora sat on her moss-like bed, facing the dean. A holographic display flickered between them, showing news feeds from across the galaxy. Headlines scrolled past. Deathworlder weapon unleashed in classroom. Human student terrorizes Galactic Academy. His Earth preparing for biological warfare. Zora's heart sank. "Dean Xylox, I can explain. It was just a sneeze, a completely involuntary and harmless reflex. I would never intentionally." The dean raised a pseudopod, silencing her. "I understand, Ms. Chen. But you must realize the gravity of the situation. Your sneeze has caused a diplomatic incident that threatens not only your position here, but potentially humanity's standing in the galactic community." The holographic display shifted, showing an incoming transmission. A stern-faced Galactic Council representative appeared, their multiple eye stalks swiveling with barely contained anger. "Dean Xylox," the representative began without preamble, "the Council demands an explanation for this outrageous breach of quarantine protocols. Allowing a Deathworlder into an educational institution without proper containment measures is a violation of at least 17 galactic laws." Xylox's form shimmered apologetically. "Counselor, I assure you, all standard procedures were followed. The incident was a simple biological function, not an attack." The counselor's eye stalks quivered indignantly. A simple biological function that sent an entire class into panic and required emergency decontamination. This is precisely why Deathworlders should be confined to their home systems. Zora couldn't stay silent any longer. She stepped into view of the transmission. "Counselor, please, this is all a misunderstanding. Humans are not a threat to the galactic community. We..." "Silence, Deathworlder. The silence, Deathworlder." The counselor snapped, their eye stalks now fully erect in alarm. "Your very presence in this conversation is a violation of safety protocols. Dean Xylox, control your subject, or we will be forced to take more drastic measures." Zora felt a surge of frustration and anger. Subject. She was a sentient being, a representative of her species, not some lab experiment to be controlled. But before she could voice her indignation, Dean Xylox smoothly interjected. "Counselor, please, let's not allow fear to cloud our judgment. The human student has been nothing but cooperative and eager to learn. This incident, while alarming, was not an act of aggression." The counselor's eye stalks swiveled skeptically. "Perhaps not intentional aggression, but the threat remains. We cannot ignore the potential dangers posed by Deathworlders, intentional or not. The Council will convene to discuss this matter further. In the meantime, the human is to be confined to quarters and all classes involving potentially hazardous species are to be suspended." With that, the transmission cut off, leaving Zora and Dean Xylox in stunned silence. Zora turned to the Dean, her voice tight with emotion. "I'm sorry, Dean Xylox. I never meant for any of this to happen. I should leave the Academy. It's clear I'm causing more harm than good here." The gelatinous administrator regarded her for a long moment, its nuclei swirling in what Zora had come to recognize as deep thought. Finally, it spoke. "No, Ms. Chen, you will not leave. In fact, I believe this incident, unfortunate as it is, presents an opportunity." Zora blinked in surprise. "An opportunity? How?" "To educate," Xylox said simply. "Fear thrives in ignorance, Ms. Chen. Your classmates, indeed the entire galactic community, fear humans because they do not understand you. This sneeze has brought that fear to the surface. Now we have a chance to address it head-on." A spark of hope ignited in Zora's chest, but it was quickly tempered by reality. "But how? I'm confined to quarters, and even if I wasn't, no one will come near me now." Dean Xylox's form rippled in what Zora had learned was the equivalent of a smile. "Leave that to me. For now, rest. Tomorrow, we begin your most important lesson yet, teaching the galaxy about humanity. As the dean oozed out of her quarters, Zara collapsed onto her bed, her mind reeling from the day's events. She had come to the academy to learn, but now she found herself in the role of teacher. The fate of human-alien relations might very well rest on her ability to explain something as simple as a sneeze. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity, even from the confines of her quarters. Dean Zylox had arranged for a series of remote lectures, allowing Zara to speak to her classmates without triggering another panic. At first, attendance was sparse, with only the boldest or most curious students tuning in. But as word spread, more and more aliens joined the sessions. Zara found herself explaining the most basic aspects of human biology and culture. She described the immune system that necessitated sneezing, the social customs surrounding it. No, we don't sneeze to mark our territory or assert dominance, and even demonstrated the proper use of a tissue, much to the fascination of her audience. But it wasn't just biology. Zara shared stories of Earth, its diverse ecosystems and cultures. She played music, showed art, and even gave a virtual cooking demonstration, though finding galactic equivalents for some ingredients proved challenging. Slowly but surely, fear began to give way to curiosity. Questions poured in, ranging from the profound, "How does a species evolve sapience on a death world?" to the amusingly mundane, "Do all humans change color when embarrassed, or is that just you?" However, not everyone was won over. A vocal minority, led by a few influential students, continued to push for Zara's removal from the academy. They argued that one human's charm offensive couldn't negate the potential threat posed by an entire species of Deathworlders. The situation came to a head a week after the infamous sneeze. Zara was in the middle of a virtual lecture on human respiratory systems when an alert flashed across her screen. The Galactic Council had reached a decision. Her heart pounding, Zara opened the message. The Council's verdict was clear. While they acknowledged that the sneeze incident was not an intentional attack, they deemed the potential risks of continued human presence at the Academy too great. Zara was to be escorted back to Earth immediately, and the fledgling human exchange program would be suspended indefinitely. As Zara read the decision aloud to her virtual audience, a chorus of protests erupted. To her surprise and gratitude, many of her classmates had come to see her not as a threat, but as a friend and valuable addition to the academy. But rules were rules, and the council's decision was final. Or was it? As Zara prepared to sign off and pack her belongings, a message flashed on her screen. It was from Dean Zylox, and contained just 4 words: "Don't give up yet." Intrigued and confused, Zara watched as another transmission cut into her feed. It was Dean Zylox, addressing not just the Academy, but the entire galactic community. "Esteemed beings of the galaxy," the Dean began, its form shimmering with determination. "Today we face a crucial decision. Do we let fear dictate our actions, or do we embrace the opportunity to grow and learn? The human, Zara Chen, has shown us that Deathworlders are more than just their harsh origins. They are beings of creativity, curiosity, and compassion." Zara watched in awe as Dean Zylox made an impassioned plea for understanding and cooperation. The administrator argued that by sending Zara away, they would be losing a valuable opportunity to bridge the gap between Deathworlders and the rest of galactic society. As the Dean spoke, messages of support began flooding in from across the academy and beyond. Students shared how Zara's lectures had changed their perspective. Xenobiologists argued for the scientific value of continued human presence. Even a few council members seemed to be wavering. The fate of Zara's academic career, and perhaps the future of human-alien relations, hung in the balance. As the galactic community debated, Zara could only wait and hope that the bridges she had begun to build would be strong enough to withstand the storm of fear and prejudice. Little did she know, the true test of humanity's place in the stars was yet to come, and it would require all of her ingenuity, courage, and uniquely human traits to overcome. turning the tables. As the debate over Zora's fate raged across galactic channels, an unexpected crisis arose that would put humanity's unique abilities to the test. A distress signal reached the Academy from a nearby research outpost on the volatile jungle moon of Silura Prime. A massive solar flare had knocked out their protective shields, leaving the outpost vulnerable to the moon's corrosive atmosphere and aggressive native fauna. The Academy's rescue teams were mobilized, but they faced a daunting challenge. Silura Prime's harsh conditions were remarkably similar to some of Earth's most extreme environments. The rescue pods designed for most galactic species wouldn't last long in the corrosive atmosphere. It was Glix, Zora's insectoid guide from her first day, who first made the connection. "Wait," he chittered excitedly during an emergency briefing. "Doesn't this environment sound a lot like the humans' homeworld?" All eyes turned to Zora, who had been allowed to attend the briefing remotely from her quarters. She felt a surge of excitement as she realized the implications. "You're right, Glix. The conditions on Silura Prime are harsh, but they're not too different from some of the more extreme places on Earth. Humans have experience operating in corrosive atmospheres and dealing with aggressive wildlife." Dean Xylox's form rippled thoughtfully. "Are you suggesting, Ms. Chen, that humans might be better equipped to handle this rescue mission than our standard teams?" Zora nodded emphatically. "Exactly. Our biology is adapted to handle these kinds of stresses. Plus, we have centuries of experience developing technology to operate in extreme environments. If you'll allow me, I can contact Earth and request a specialized rescue team." The room erupted in a cacophony of arguments. Some supported the idea, seeing it as a perfect opportunity to prove humanity's worth to the galactic community. Others protested, arguing that allowing humans to intervene would be too risky. In the end, it was the urgency of the situation that tipped the scales. The researchers on Silura Prime didn't have time to wait for a prolonged debate. With the reluctant blessing of the Galactic Council, Zora was given permission to call in a human rescue team. What followed was a flurry of activity unlike anything the Academy had ever seen. Within hours, a specialized human rescue ship arrived in orbit. Zora, to her surprise and delight, was asked to join the mission as a liaison between the human team and the Academy. As Zora donned an advanced environmental suit and prepared to board the rescue shuttle, she felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about saving the researchers on Silura Prime. It was humanity's chance to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. The descent to Silura Prime was harrowing. The shuttle bucked and shuddered as it plunged through the turbulent, corrosive atmosphere. But the human pilots, veterans of search and rescue operations in Earth's most dangerous regions, handled it with practiced ease. When they landed near the stricken outpost, Zora was the first to step out onto the moon's surface. Through the faceplate of her helmet, she saw a world that would have been deadly to most galactic species. Caustic rain hissed as it hit the ground, and in the distance, she could hear the roars of Silura Prime's infamous predators. But to Zora, it was almost familiar. The harsh conditions reminded her of training exercises in Earth's most extreme environments. She felt a surge of confidence as she led the rescue team towards the outpost. The operation that followed would go down in galactic history. The human team navigated the corrosive jungle with a mix of high-tech equipment and old-fashioned ingenuity. They jury-rigged repairs to the outpost's failing systems, using techniques honed in Earth's most inhospitable regions. When a pack of Silurian apex predators attacked, drawn by the commotion, the humans didn't panic. Instead, they deployed non-lethal deterrents, demonstrating a respect for alien life even in the face of danger. Zora found herself in her element, bridging the gap between the terrified alien researchers and the human rescue team. She translated not just words, but concepts, helping the aliens understand the humans' seemingly reckless but effective methods. As the last of the researchers was loaded onto the rescue shuttle, Zora felt a swell of pride. They had done it. Against all odds, a team of Deathworlders had succeeded where others would have failed. The return to the Academy was met with a hero's welcome. Aliens who had once recoiled at the sight of Zara now cheered as she stepped off the shuttle. News of the successful rescue spread rapidly across galactic networks, challenging long-held beliefs about Deathworlders. In the aftermath of the rescue, Zara found herself at the center of a galactic debate once again. But this time, the tone was different. There were calls for reevaluating humanity's status, for closer cooperation and cultural exchange. As Zara prepared to address the Galactic Council, no longer as a student on trial, but as a representative of her species, she realized that her accidental sneeze had set in motion a chain of events that was changing the course of human-alien relations. The galaxy was beginning to see that being a Deathworlder wasn't just about survival against harsh odds. It was about adaptability, ingenuity, and a unique perspective that could prove invaluable to the galactic community. With a deep breath, Zara stepped forward to tell humanity's story to the stars. The journey that had begun with a simple sneeze was far from over, but for the first time since she'd arrived at the Academy, Zara felt true hope for the future of human-alien relations. A new understanding. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was a sight to behold. Representatives from thousands of species filled the vast, spherical room, their varied forms creating a living tapestry of galactic diversity. Zara stood at the center, a solitary human figure surrounded by the collective wisdom and power of a million worlds. She took a deep breath, acutely aware that her words here today could shape the future of human-alien relations for generations to come. The pressure was immense, but Zara drew strength from her experiences over the past weeks. She had faced fear, prejudice, and near disaster, emerging stronger and more determined than ever. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, Zara began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. I stand before you not just as a student or a rescuer, but as a representative of humanity. We are more than the death world that shaped us. We are explorers, innovators, and above all, we are eager to learn and grow alongside our galactic neighbors. As Zara spoke, she could see the council members' reactions. Some leaned forward, intrigued. Others shifted uncomfortably, old fears warring with new curiosity. Yes, Earth is a harsh world by galactic standards, Zara continued. But it is also a world of incredible beauty and diversity. The very challenges that made us Deathworlders in your eyes also forged in us qualities that I believe can benefit the entire galactic community. She went on to describe how humanity's adaptability and innovative thinking, honed by millennia of surviving on a dangerous world, could be applied to problems facing the galaxy. She spoke of human art, music, and literature, painting a picture of a species driven not just by survival, but by a deep-seated need to create and explore. The rescue mission on Xylara Prime was not just a demonstration of our physical capabilities, Zara explained. It was a testament to our problem-solving skills, our ability to work under pressure, and our deep-rooted desire to help others, even at great personal risk. As she spoke, holographic displays around the chamber showed footage from the rescue mission. Council members watched in astonishment as human rescuers braved conditions that would have been lethal to most species, using a combination of advanced technology and improvised solutions to save lives. But perhaps our greatest strength, Zara said, her voice softening, is our diversity. Humanity is not a monolith. We are a tapestry of cultures, each with its own unique perspective. This diversity of thought allows us to approach problems from angles you might never have considered. She paused, looking around the chamber. I ask you to consider, what challenges could we overcome together? What new frontiers could we explore? What wonders could we create if we combine the strengths of humanity with the incredible abilities of your own species? As Zara concluded her speech, the chamber erupted in a cacophony of debate. Some council members voiced enthusiastic support for increased human involvement in galactic affairs. Others remained skeptical, arguing that the risks still outweighed the potential benefits. The deliberations lasted for hours, with arguments ranging from the philosophical to the purely practical. Zara stood firm, answering questions and addressing concerns with a poise that belied her youth. Finally, the Galactic Council reached a decision. The head counselor, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, floated to the center of the chamber. After much deliberation, the counselor's voice resonated. We have decided to revise humanity's status within the galactic community. The human exchange program will not only be reinstated but expanded. Furthermore, we will be establishing a new committee to explore avenues for human integration into various galactic projects, particularly those involving extreme environments or requiring innovative problem-solving. A cheer went up from Zara's supporters in the chamber. She felt a wave of relief and joy wash over her. They had done it. The door to the stars, which had so recently seemed to be slamming shut, was now opening wider than ever before. But the head counselor wasn't finished. However, they continued, this increased integration will come with responsibilities. Humanity must demonstrate its commitment to galactic peace and cooperation. We will be watching closely, Ms. Chen. The future of human-alien relations may well depend on how your species conducts itself in the cycles to come. Zara nodded solemnly. We understand, Counselor. Humanity is ready to take its place as a responsible member of the galactic community. We have much to learn, but also much to offer. Thank you for this opportunity. As the council session adjourned, Zara found herself surrounded by a diverse group of alien diplomats, scientists, and students, all eager to speak with her. The fear that had once caused them to recoil at her presence had been replaced by genuine curiosity and excitement. Dean Xylox oozed over to Zara, its gelatinous form shimmering with what she had come to recognize as pride. Well done, Ms. Chen. You've not only secured your place at the Academy, but opened doors for your entire species. How does it feel? Zara took a moment to consider the question. The events of the past few weeks felt almost surreal. From a panic-inducing sneeze to a daring rescue mission to addressing the Galactic Council, it was a journey she could never have imagined when she first arrived at the Academy. It feels overwhelming, Zara admitted, but in a good way, like we're standing on the brink of something incredible. As they spoke, a familiar chittering sound approached. It was Glix, the insectoid student who had been Zara's first guide at the Academy. But the nervous, twitchy creature she had first met was gone. In its place was a confident being, standing tall, for an insectoid, and looking directly at Zara with all of its compound eyes. Zara, Glix said, using her first name for the first time, I owe you an apology. When you first arrived, I was afraid. I let my preconceptions about Deathworlders cloud my judgment. But you've shown us all that being a Deathworlder isn't just about surviving harsh conditions. It's about thriving in the face of adversity, about using challenges as opportunities for growth. I'm honored to call you a friend. Zara felt a lump in her throat. This, she realized, was what she had come to the Academy for, not just to learn, but to build bridges of understanding between different species. Thank you, Glix, she said warmly. Your friendship means more to me than you know. As the day wore on, Zara found herself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. There were interviews with galactic media, meetings with Academy officials to discuss the expanded exchange program, and a constant stream of students and faculty wanting to talk about future collaborations. But amidst all the excitement, Zara couldn't help but think about the challenges that lay ahead. The head counselor's words echoed in her mind. The galaxy would be watching humanity closely. The responsibility was enormous. As if sensing her thoughts, Dean Xylox spoke up. You're thinking about the future, aren't you? Zara nodded. It's just, we've been given this amazing opportunity, but it comes with such high stakes. What if we mess up? What if I mess up? The dean's form rippled in what Zara had come to recognize as a reassuring gesture. My dear, that's the beauty of it. You're not alone in this. Yes, you've become something of a symbol for humanity in the galactic community, but remember, it wasn't just you who made this happen. It was the human rescue team, The researchers who've been studying your species, even the very nature of humanity itself that brought us to this point. Zara considered this. It was true. She might have been the face of humanity at the Academy, but she was standing on the shoulders of countless others. Her success was their success. "You're right," she said, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "And we're not alone going forward either. We have allies now, friends who understand us better than ever before." As if to punctuate her words, a group of students from various species approached, led by Glix. They were chattering excitedly about the possibility of a mixed-species research team to study extreme environments across the galaxy. "See," Dean Zylock said, a hint of amusement in its vibrating voice. "The future is already unfolding, and it's looking far brighter than any of us could have imagined just a few rotations ago." Zara smiled, feeling a surge of excitement for what lay ahead. The path forward wouldn't be easy. There would be misunderstandings, setbacks, and challenges yet unforeseen. But for the first time, humanity had a real chance to prove itself on the galactic stage. As she joined the group of eager students, already bouncing ideas off each other about their potential research project, Zara couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought her here. It had all started with a simple, involuntary bodily function, a sneeze that had shaken the stars. But that sneeze, as disruptive as it had been, had ultimately led to greater understanding. It had forced both humans and aliens to confront their fears and preconceptions, paving the way for genuine dialogue and cooperation. In the end, Zara realized that was the true strength of humanity, not their ability to survive on a death world, but their capacity for adaptation, their drive to understand and connect with others, even across the vast gulfs of space and biology that separated them from their galactic neighbors. As the Galactic Intercultural Academy buzzed with newfound energy and purpose, Zara felt a profound sense of optimism. The future was uncertain, but it was also filled with possibilities. Humanity had taken its first real steps into the galactic community, and she had a feeling their journey was only just beginning. The stars, once distant and forbidding, now seemed to shine with welcome. And somewhere out there, on countless worlds circling countless suns, other beings were looking up at those same stars, wondering about the strange, resilient Deathworlders who had sneezed their way into the galactic stage. Zara Chen, once a lone human in a sea of aliens, now stood at the forefront of a new era of interspecies cooperation. And as she looked out at the diverse group of beings around her, each unique in their biology and culture, yet united in their thirst for knowledge and understanding, she knew that together they would write the next chapter in the grand story of galactic civilization. The adventure, it seemed, was just beginning.